Good evening. Welcome to Legally Speaking. I'm your host, Sophia Haynes, and today we're continuing our Back to School series with attorney Gerald Griggs, and he's going to talk to us about the new anti-bullying law that was just passed last year by the governor and signed into law. Welcome, Gerald.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Could you tell our audience a little bit about your background, who you are, and a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I'm an attorney here in Atlanta. Been practicing about 7.5 years. Previously worked at the Rockdale and DeKalb County Public Defender's Office, and then went out into private practice, mainly focusing in criminal law and education law, and got involved in the anti-bullying movement, which culminated in the passage of a new law.
Oh, so tell the audience how you got involved in this anti-bullying movement that we've been hearing so much about.
Wow, it was very interesting how I got involved. I received a phone call about in the middle of April of 2009 in reference to a young man that had hung himself based upon him being bullied at the DeKalb County Elementary School. And I just seen the mother on TV with an interview. I think it was on WSB, and I was shocked by what had happened. And she asked me if I could help, and at that point I didn't know if I could, because Georgia really didn't have an anti-bullying law that had any teeth in it. So I told her we'll take some time and you know, get over what had just happened to her son and give me a call back. And she called me back about 2 days later and said, "Mr. Griggs, I really need your help." And so I decided that we needed to do something. I didn't know what we were going to do. I thought we would at least file a lawsuit and you know, try to change some things in DeKalb County. And it went from there, and we started having bullying rallies. We started going into the community and finding out about different incidents of bullying that were going on, and then we finally got in touch with lawmakers.
So you actually heard about other incidents that had happened of similar circumstances as the case had been approached to you? Oh
yes. I think in total I talked to maybe 16 to 20 different parents who had similar incidents, never to the extent of Jaheim, but that had been going on in DeKalb County schools, and it was horrific, the things that were going on.
So what was their I guess tell us some of those things that they were telling you about what was happening at the schools.
Oh, kids being jumped in the bathroom, kids being jumped in the hall, kids being jumped on the bus, kids being bullied over the internet through Facebook, MySpace, kids just living in a society of terror in the school. And some of the kids were telling the administrators and nothing was happening. Some of the parents were going up to the school multiple times and nothing was happening. And it was just, as a parent myself, I couldn't think of anything more horrific than to drop my child off at school for 8 hours and to come back and find out that my child was being beaten, harassed, or doggone near terrorized at school.
Now, we know that the law eventually got passed, but tell our audience, you know, what was the road that got us the eventual law that was signed in May of 2010?
Wow. It was a very long road. It started with, you know, with civil rights groups coming to our aid. It started with grassroots organizers pushing. We marched. We went to different rallies. We went to school board meetings. We went and spoke directly to the superintendent at that particular time, and everybody wanted to say bullying was not a problem in DeKalb County, and bullying is not a problem in the United States. And we got invitations to go to different talk shows and talk about it. And we mainly went and focused on the children and talked with the children. I went to 5, 6, 7 different schools and talked to children about this. And finally, we got the attention of several high-level legislators in the General Assembly who actually wanted to get behind it. And we had Senate subcommittees, House subcommittees, where at some point the bill would lag, it would stop, and it finally culminated in about April of 2010 with the untimely death of another individual in Massachusetts that reinvigorated the call here in Georgia and led to the ultimate passage of the bill.
Wow, it sounds like a lot.
It was quite a bit.
Oh, okay. So for those in the audience that don't know, tell us exactly what is bullying.
And that's one of the things that caused the law to to stagnate for a little while. Bullying is any written, verbal, or physical act that puts another person in reasonable fear or of immediate bodily harm, or threatens them in such a way that it prevents them from being able to enjoy the school environment. Bullying can take place on any school property, on any school computer, on any school bus stop, anything that functions around school hours that creates a climate of fear. And basically that is the definition of bullying.
So that sounds very subjective. So how would a school administrator know that that effect was happening on a student?
Well, that's where the students reporting to the teachers, or the parents reporting to the teachers about the things that are going on, and then depending on the level of the alleged bullying, they will take age-appropriate sanctions necessary. But they, from the ages of 6th grade to 12th grade, they will have a tribunal hearing to determine whether or not bullying actually occurred. And for K through 12, they are mandated to have parent-teacher conferences, and then to get the school administrators involved and actually investigate. So if an allegation of bullying occurs, there is mandated in the law an investigatory step to take place to determine whether or not it fits within the codification of the statute.
Okay, so let's talk about what, because we're going to talk about what this law says now, but what was in place prior to it? That I guess what was in place for Jaheim?
Oh wow! In Georgia, prior to the passage of the new bill, the only thing that was on the books was a vague definition of bullying, and then it was only necessary to report it if it happened between 6th and 12th grade, and it happened 3 times with the same student and the same perpetrator.
Now you said it was vague. What do you mean by that?
It really didn't define what bullying was. It didn't give parents, students, or educators a good idea of what bullying was. It was basically just the same as simple assault. Somebody's put in reasonable fear of an immediate bodily injury. Well, what is that? I mean, can that be written? Can that be verbal? Can that be in text form? Can that be email? What is that? And then for it only to be 6 through 12, when the statistics show that 75% of bullying occurs between the 3rd and the 8th grade. So you're missing the primary education, the primary students that are being harassed and are being bullied.
And in your particular case, did it was that child in any of those grades?
No, he was in the 5th grade.
He was in the 5th grade.
Right under the cutoff. And of course, in that case, the mother had reported these incidents somewhere between 7 to 8 times to the administrators, that he was being beaten up in the bathroom, that he was being constantly harassed, that he was being threatened, and that he was living in a climate of fear, and nothing happened.
So was it a situation where no teeth for the school administrators to do anything about it?
I believe it was inactivity first, and then once they actually found out about it, they wanted to hide it. So with this respect to the law, no, there was nothing that could be done. There was no teeth to the bill because it didn't cover his particular circumstance. But with the actual school that was involved, we honestly believe they had notice, and they didn't do anything. They said, well, bullying's been going on for a long time, and that we didn't know anything about this.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that because, when you and I are growing up, kids did, tease, they joned and janked and all the other stuff. So how is what we're seeing now different from what we experienced as kids?
Through investigating this and being a part of the movement, I learned that bullying has become hyper-violent. It's not just...
What do you mean by hyper-violent?
Hyper-violent, it means like this. You can be bullied 24/7, 7 days a week. Where in our generation, you just had to worry about going to school. Maybe it happened at school. Now with the advent of the internet, you could be bullied on Facebook consistently. One rumor could turn into something on the internet that lasts you the rest of your life. And then the threats of the fights. We're gonna beat you up when you get on the bus. We're gonna beat you up in the classroom. We're gonna beat you up in front of the teacher, and they're not gonna do anything. And then we're gonna jump you. You're gonna jump you again. So once it gets to that point, when you're living in a climate of fear, you tell your parents, you tell the school administrators, and the bullies know nothing's gonna happen. Somebody may say something to me, they may not, but if they do, I promise you, you're gonna have really bad school year, and then after school we're gonna beat you up. So I mean, it's more than just a name calling. You know, we were used to Johnny. You know, you might talk about somebody's mama, you might shoot the dozens. Oh no, we talking about we gonna jump you in the bathroom, we gonna choke you till you unconscious, and we gonna leave you there. And then when the teachers find out, we gonna do it again. It's almost getting to the point that it's things you would think that happen in prison. You know, I heard about students sharpening pencils and planning on stabbing people.
Wow.
This didn't happen when I was in school.
No, I can't say it happened when I was there either. And to your point, we now have the cyberbullying now. And I think we hear often about on the news about the fight that happened from the Facebook post.
Oh, yes.
Things of that nature. So that is considered bullying as well.
Yes. Anything that is done electronically that's using school electronic computers, or that's done either during the classroom or on the school bus, is covered.
So what can a parent do to minimize this risk for their kids being bullied, even outside of what the law says?
They need to seriously talk with their children. Know who your children are around. Know what your children are involved in. Monitor their Facebook. Monitor their Twitter. Monitor their MySpace, because you'd be amazed at the type of things that are going on these social networking sites that will tell you what happens during the classroom. I mean, with everyone having a cell phone, you get up to the minute whatever's going on with Johnny or Shaniqua, as far as what may have happened at the party, what may have happened in second period class. You know these things, and you should know what your children are involved in. And once you find out, make sure you notify the administration. If the administration doesn't do anything, then you notify your local law enforcement, because bullying has gotten to the point where it's a criminal act if it reaches a certain level, and it needs to be reported. So I think those are things parents can do.
All right, well, we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to really dig into the new law and to determine exactly what it says. You know, what can parents do, and even the parents that have bullies themselves, you know, what they need to do to make sure that their child doesn't get caught up in a situation. Let them know the severity of that. Okay? So we'll be back in a couple of seconds with Attorney Gerald Griggs. Hi, you're tuned into Legally Speaking, a public service of You and the Law. You and the Law is a nonprofit whose mission is to provide information and resources to empower you in your legal affairs. If you have a question or would like to have a topic featured, feel free to contact us online at www.youandthelawtoday.org. You can also sign up there for our mailing list and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We air a new show every Sunday at 6 o'clock, so make sure you tune in to see the new featured show. And remember, with every right comes responsibilities, so know your rights and accept your responsibilities. And he's talking to us about the new anti-bullying law that's been passed in Georgia. Prior to that, we kind of got a little background prior to the break, so now we're kind of just go right into the bill and find out exactly, you know, what the law says and what parents can do and what their rights are, but also what their responsibilities are under this new law. So could you, for the folks that are just joining us, can you tell us again what exactly is bullying?
Bullying is any act, whether it's verbal, written, or physical, that places your child in a climate that they feel like that they are constantly being harassed. It could be done in various formal fashions, and it substantially interferes with their ability to receive a quality education. So that's kind of what the bill, what bullying is defined as, and then there are several steps you can take to make sure that your child's legal rights are being protected.
So does that include school bus as well as school property?
Yes, it includes any school property, any school buses, and any activity that occurs during school hours.
Okay, so let's talk about exactly what the bill does. We have a situation, we've identified that this is something that is, by statutory definition, bullying.
Yes.
Okay, what is the school's responsibility? Well, I guess let's start off with the parent and student. This has happened to me.
Okay.
What is the step that I'm supposed to take?
The first step that you're supposed to take is to find out what happened to your child. Sit down and talk with your child, the little boy, little girl, or the teenage child, and find out specifically what happened. then you need to go and notify the school. Hopefully the school already knows about it and has a report, either through the counselor or through the assistant principal or whoever is over discipline. At that particular point, they're supposed to have a tribunal hearing if it's 6th through 12th grade, or they're supposed to have an investigatory panel if it's under that grade.
Okay, so let's stop right there. You use some terms that maybe not everybody understands. So what exactly is a tribunal? What happens there?
Okay, a tribunal hearing is a disciplinary hearing. Usually it takes place with a neutral administrator or somebody that's neutral, where the school presents their case and the person who's alleged to have done some type of activity presents their case, and there's a determination made whether or not they're going to be disciplined. That's for 6th through 12th grade. For the K through the 6th grade, it's more like a parent-teacher conference with all the parties that's involved to determine what the facts really are and whether or not bullying occurred.
Okay, so we've made a report. We either had a tribunal hearing or we've had some type of investigation, and we determined, let's just say, that no bullying occurred.
Yes.
What happens then?
At that particular point, there's a record of whether or not the hearing took place and the findings of the hearing. If no bullying is determined to have happened, then it continues to go on, and if it happens again, it needs to be reported again. But generally what happens is there is a determination, if it rises to the level of the statute, that bullying occurred, and there will be age-appropriate sanctions. It may be counseling, it may be removal of the student from the school to an alternative school. It can even rise to the level of expulsion depending on the severity, and if it rises to the level of a criminal offense, it will be referred to the prosecutors.
Okay, so at what point am I looking at an alternative school? At what point am I looking at a criminal prosecution?
If it rises to the level of a crime, which means that, you know, disruption of a public school, sometimes aggravated assault, it depends on the age of the child, aggravated assault, battery, terroristic threat, it depends on what the nature of the offense is, whether or not it will go that far. But generally what happens is the child's referred to counseling to deal with the issue on the first offense. On the second offense, he or she can be removed to an alternative school or removed from the classroom with the victim. So that's generally what happens.
Okay, so as a parent,
yes,
I have an option of either having my child move to a different classroom or move to a different school. Who makes a determination as to whether they go to a different class or a different school?
Well, typically it is either the principal or whoever is in charge of discipline, and generally the person that's removed is not the victim, it's usually the bully. After there's a determination of bullying, then they'll take the recommendation from the counselor and the principal will make a decision. If it goes higher than that, it can be taken up to the district level or whichever area your child is in to see if they can be removed to another school in that district.
Okay, so are there any precautions put in place? Let's just say that the decision is that my child or the bully goes to another classroom in that same school.
Yes.
Are there any precautions that are taken for my child? Maybe they're in transit in between classes or at lunchtime or at recess or anything like that.
Well, typically there is something noted in the file, and of course most schools are small enough to where they know that this child had a tribunal hearing or this child had a disciplinary a meeting, and that they are not to be around this other child. But if it rises to the level of a criminal offense or something like that, then the child will be removed and potentially can be expelled.
Good information. In this bill, was the Department of Education charged in any way, the local school boards charged in any way to do anything? And
that's the key. The true teeth to this bill is that by August of 2011, which is now, they would have to have a model policy that defines what they would do and what steps they would take as far as bullying is concerned. If they don't have a model policy and then they don't follow the model policy, then their funding from the state can be cut off. So schools are taking this very, very serious because it's tied to their funding. If you don't follow this policies and procedures that are mandated in the law, then you don't have your funding, and you know, you're effectively cut off.
Well, if you want to hit somebody, you definitely want to hit them in their pocket to get their attention.
That's the teeth to the bill.
That is some serious teeth. So who determines what would be contained in that model policy?
Well, the the Georgia Department of Education writes the initial model policy, and each school district has to adopt a model policy that's either identical to that, or that is at least that's the floor.
In line with
exactly,
it.
It's in line with it, and then to implement it.
Wow. So, as we're in school now,
yes,
I as a parent have some new rights. My kids have new rights,
yes.
And I got some responsibilities, and my kid is a bully.
Yes.
So, what is out there to tell me what that policy is and what it contains?
Well, typically when your child goes back to school, they give you the student handbook, and generally the rules and regulations are in the handbook, and generally the bullying policy is in the handbook. So you would know what your rights and obligations are in that handbook, and you should review it with your child, and you should review it with all the decision makers in that family to know, hey, look, the school system is taking bullying very seriously. You know, if you get caught doing it once, twice, 3 times, you could potentially be suspended, expelled, you could go to jail. So you should take it very serious and know that bullying hurts.
Okay, so let's just say that, you know, I have a kid and I didn't know my kid was doing all this, and they are charged with a criminal offense. What types of things? You mentioned something like aggravated assaults and batteries and things of that nature. So what's happening to my child's educational process as this is happening?
Well, if your child's unfortunate enough to be charged with the crime, first thing I tell them to do is hire an attorney. But you need to know that serious deprivation of their liberties can occur. They could be expelled. They could face serious criminal sanctions, either fines or long terms of incarceration. So I think that as a parent, you should really review the bullying policy and go over the things that the school are not going to tolerate, because I mean there's zero tolerance on a lot of things, bringing weapons to school, in certain schools fighting. So you need to know that, and know if your child is charged with a criminal offense, you really need to talk to an attorney, because there are several ways you can defend against that. But Georgia's taking bullying very seriously.
So that means, parents, that you need to read those handbooks that you got that we normally like to throw on the side, because there are new responsibilities that you have. So if you didn't receive it in your child's packet, you need to go and ask for it. Okay, so how as a parent would I know if my child is going up that ladder toward the criminal prosecutions? I'm sure that you're building up to that.
Yes.
So how would I know what are my notifications I'm supposed to receive, or am I supposed to receive any notifications when tribunal hearings are happening or investigations are happening, or my child at number 1, 2, 3 or whatever, and getting ready to go to alternative school? You know, how as a parent am I supposed to be made aware of that?
Okay. Typically, notice is sent out when there's going to be a tribunal hearing or a disciplinary meeting for each child, and most of your school handbooks are online for whatever district you're in. I know DeKalb is online, I know Fulton County is online, Atlanta Public Schools is online, and they lay out the levels of offenses that rise to expulsion or suspension or potential criminal prosecution. I believe specifically the City of Atlanta has 3 levels. Fighting, I believe, is on the first level, and it goes up from there. So you need to know that, and they are mandated by the law to notify both the bully's parents and the victim's parents of any hearings or any meetings, so that all parties concerned in the matter can be there and be heard. In a tribunal hearing, I would always advise you have an attorney, because it is a hearing. There will be a determination of whether or not your child is going to suffer some sort of sanction with the school. As far as the earlier grades, the meetings, I would advise that you may want to contact an attorney, or you may want to have an attorney present just in case.
Now, are there any training programs or anything that's mandated by the law for to bring educational awareness to parents about what the new law says, what it does, and where can I or they're required to do any training, since this is a new situation?
Well, we talked about that during the hearings, and that was a piece that we hoped would have made it into the bill. But with the process of making a bill or making a law, a lot of things happen behind the scenes that people don't really want to know about. So that part was taken out. But there are programs out there. I believe the Anti-Defamation League has No Place for Hate policies and programs that you can get online at the Anti-Defamation League. I'm not sure of the website, but just type in No Place for Hate on Google. It'll pull it up. You can go to bullyingpolice.org. They have model programs and policies. That's bullyingpolice.org. Or you can go to my website, Gerald, www.geraldagriggslaw.com, and we have policies and procedures that you can follow, and you can understand more about bullying.
Very good information. I guess the last topic I want to talk about, what if something's happening to me as a student, or my child is telling me something and I'm reporting somebody for bullying, but it turns out that it's not bullying. Am I looking at any type of civil liability or anything along those lines if it turns out that I'm being harassed somebody, maybe don't rise to the level of bullying, that would make me not report it?
That's one thing that we were emphatic about putting in the law, so we wouldn't have a chilling effect on the reporting. You cannot be held liable for reporting in good faith incidents of bullying that you believe are happening. So that's a portion of the law that makes sure that you are protected as long as you are reporting things that you know that are in good faith. Now, if it's a bad faith issue, meaning that you are trying to be malicious and you just outright lying on somebody, you may face some civil repercussions. But as long as it's in good faith and you have a good belief that this is happening, you won't face any civil liability.
And that's good to know. So it's really no bad result from just reporting it. Let somebody determine what it is.
No, because the key to this law is to protect Georgia's classrooms and protect children so they can learn. I know Georgia's, especially in Atlanta, we've had issues recently, but everybody involved wants to make sure that children have a classroom that they can learn, and that's the purpose of this law.
Very, very good information. Well, this show is all about resources. So where can I go and get a copy of this law? Because I'm pretty sure that, you know, the thing I received in my handbook would probably just tell how they're implementing it. But if I want to read the law myself so that I know for certain what it says, what it doesn't say, where can I go and get a copy of that?
Well, there are several places. In our new technology age, the internet is replete with area. You can go on Google and type in Georgia's anti-bullying law. It'll pull it up. You can go to the Georgia State Legislature website and pull it up as Title 20. You can come to my website, GeraldAGriggsLaw.com. It's on there. And you can find it in various places. Or you can go to your local library and get the Title 20 of the Georgia Code. It's in Title 20.
And I do have, it is called Senate Bill 250, SB 250, and you can go to www.legis.ga.gov. As we wrap up this show, is any other things that the audience needs to be aware about for this law, or any other points that you'd like to make and share with them?
Ladies and gentlemen, please talk with your children. You know, in April of 2009, something horrific happened because we weren't aware truly about the nature of bullying. We don't ever want that to happen again. So please talk to your children and make sure you report these issues so that we never have a tragedy like the one that occurred to Jaheim Herrera.
Well, you heard it here, folks. There is laws out there to protect you. There's laws out there to protect your children, because children cannot learn if they're in a hostile environment or they're feeling harassed. And there's no reason why they should not have a peaceful environment. So as we say on this show all the time, with every right comes responsibility. So know your rights and accept your responsibilities. And until next time, we will see you next Sunday at 6.